Hey everybody, Matt Leja here with Maple Grove Productions. Today I'm going to show you how to prepare and preserve your fiddleheads. As you know, it's a very short window for collecting those fiddleheads and getting them ready and enjoying them. So it's a once a year delicacy. If you want to enjoy them a few times throughout the year, then you have to get good at preparing and preserving. So that's what I'm going to show you here now. So the first step would be to figure out when is a good time to collect your fiddleheads. You can check out my vlog for some tips on when the season is ready to pick fiddleheads. In a nutshell, you're going to wait until the snow melts, and then about a week after the snow melts, or within that week rather, you want to start looking for them. They're going to start poking their heads out not long after the snow melts. We started to see ours first emerge around the end of April, beginning of May, so somewhere around May 1st to 3rd is when they first started coming out. And if they get more than an inch or two long, then it's too far gone at that point. So once you've collected your fiddleheads, what you're going to want to do is soak them like this in a bowl with some water. I use mineralized water, but you don't have to, just any ordinary water will do. What that's going to do is it's going to loosen up the brown husks, and it'll make it easier to take those off. And when you're rinsing them, you can soak them for at least a couple of hours. I like to soak them overnight to really get it nice and soft. Not enough to the point where they turn mushy, but just enough to get that brown papery stuff off of there. As you can see, it's coming off pretty easily. And when you go to rinse it off, it does come off pretty good. So once you've soaked them for a good bit of time, then you're going to start going through them one at a time. So if patience is not your forte, then maybe fiddleheads or even wild edibles in general may not be for you. But I'm not exactly a patient person myself, but I'm learning it through doing this. But yeah, you got to go through these guys one at a time. Make sure you get all of that brown papery husk off of there. You can see it accumulates rather quickly. Make sure you have a nice clean sterile environment. Wash your hands, obviously, goes without saying. And also another reason why we do this is to begin to eliminate some of the dirt that may be caught in the furrows. And also there is a toxin in there that you want to eliminate as much as possible. So we're actually going to soak, clean, then we're going to rinse two or three more times to really get all that dirt that may be in those tightly squeezed little furrows. You want to get all that stuff off of there. And then afterwards I'll show you how to preserve them by blanching them, and also how to cook them. We're not going to show you how to prepare them for eating, because there's many different varieties, all kinds of recipes out there for fiddleheads. You can check those out. We like to just saute them with a little bit of olive oil, some butter, and garlic. And that's delish. Yeah, let's keep preparing our fiddleheads, and then we'll go.
One eternity later.
On a little side note here, don't be afraid to save the stems of your fiddleheads. Keep them attached. An inch or two of stem on your fiddleheads is just fine. That is edible, and it's just wasted nutrients to throw that away. This one's a little long, so I may want to trim that one a bit, but it's right on the edge. It's about 2 inches there, so I'll probably keep that one on. It adds to the appeal as well and makes it look cool. It's very unique food, so keep it looking that way. But otherwise, if there's brown stuff anywhere, if you see any brown spots, you can always just snap that, keep it. It's very similar to, it's kind of a cross between asparagus and Brussels sprouts, so treat it that way. And then it goes without saying, all those leftover bits, make sure you put those in your compost. As I'm preparing these guys, I'm thinking of little tips here to share with you. You'll know that the season is done whenever I'm not seeing any here, but the stem will start to grow leaves and get little spikes on the side, so that's when you know the season is done. In addition to the fact that they're, unfurling for more than 2 inches or so, then they're too far gone. But these are just right, so you want to make sure to catch them in time. Very short window. These particular fiddleheads come from ostrich ferns, but as far as I know, there are a couple of other fern varieties that you can get fiddleheads from. Be very, very careful though in harvesting ferns, ostrich ferns and fiddleheads, because some of them can be toxic, even when prepared and cooked. So make sure that you do adequate research to make sure that you're protecting yourself and your family from food poisoning. But if done right, there is no danger whatsoever. We've never had so much as a sore tummy because we take our time and do it right. And fiddleheads, in addition to being the delicacy, are actually loaded with nutrients. They're very high in vitamin A and omegas, omega 3 and 6. So they're very good for you. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's probably an example of one that I would trim the stem on here. Got a couple of brown spots, so I'll just pinch it and break that off. But if you have some brownish color on the end of your stem, that's okay. That's just bruising or oxidization, just like an apple from breaking it off. So that's okay. That's completely edible. So there you can see the water that's left over. Kind of gross. All those husks in there. Looks like there's a couple that I missed. Put those aside. I want to make sure to get every last little bit of them. But we got a good little supply. Not too bad. Hard to estimate, but probably a pound or two there. And that's our second batch that we pulled out of the forest this year. So a pretty good season. But very short, as I said, because we can only get 2 harvests for the whole year. So that's fiddleheads done for 2019. There's an example of one I probably wouldn't even keep. Got brown spots on it. Weird looking. It's got dark spots in the middle, so could clean it up, but so small, it's not even worth keeping. But there's our fiddleheads, all cleaned up, ready to go, ready to blanch, ready to preserve, or even cook up if we wanted to. I'm going to soak and rinse these 2 more times. That will make 3 in total, just to make sure we get all the dirt and stuff off of there. And any remaining husks will come off as well. And as far as boiling the water, we want to add maybe an inch above where we were with the fiddleheads. So if we put these side by side, you can see a generous amount of water to make sure that they get submerged is what is recommended. So the water level, as you can see, is about an inch above our fiddleheads. So we'll bring this up to a rolling boil. A little pinch of sea salt as well to speed up the process. And for blanching, I believe this is a necessity or a norm. There we go. So in this case, I am blanching them in order to freeze them and preserve them. But if you wanted to cook them up fresh, you would just continue to boil them for 10 to 15 minutes. If you prefer to steam them so they stay a bit firmer, at least 10 to 12 minutes in your steamer. So there's our fiddleheads, rinsed, soaked, ready to go, rinsed and soaked 3 times, ready to jump into the water as soon as that comes up to a boil. And as that's coming up to temperature, I'm getting my cold water bath ready. As you know, with blanching, you need to immediately dunk them in very cold, preferably ice water, to stop them from cooking, or overcooking rather. So while that's coming up to a boil, get your water ready. And we'll proceed to the next step, which is boiling them up for 2 minutes. Okay, so we got a nice rolling boil here. Let's pop in our fiddleheads and start the timer. Careful not to burn yourself. Whoa, just like I just did. One-handed troubles. So That stopped the boil there, but it'll pick back up here in a second. Once it starts to roll again, then I'll start the timer. So it took a couple minutes to bring it back up to a rolling boil here. So it's going to end up cooking it a little bit more than I would have liked. So let's go ahead and start the timer for 2 minutes. And we'll let that blanch for a good 60 seconds. Maybe a little bit less with the amount I've already cooked it with in very hot water, close to boiling. So a minute and a half should do it. And the water, I'll mention as well, you don't keep. Some folks may have some ideas of keeping the water for this, that, and the other, but you don't keep this water for fiddleheads. You get rid of it. So we'll let that cook for another minute and a half, another minute or so, and then we'll plunge them in our ice water, in our ice bath. Smells a little bit like broccoli, peas maybe? I'm not sure. It reminds me of another green vegetable. Okay, so we got about 30 seconds left on the clock. Like I said, they were in there for a minute or two before I got it back up to a rolling boil, so we should be good here. That should be blanched and ready to go, so I'll just stop the timer. We will let it continue boiling. We'll just grab our ladle or strainer, whatever you want to call this thing, and start cooling them down so they don't overcook, because these things will get limp pretty quick. Last thing you want is soggy fiddleheads. You can see how they changed color a little bit. They're brighter, and from my perspective a little whiter, but you're probably not going to see that on the video. Let's submerge them in there, stop the cooking process. You don't have to use ice. Cold water from your tap would be enough, but if you've got the ice, might as well use it. And that will ensure that they will not cook anymore from this point. Now, as I'm doing this, I will explain to you the instructions for, yeah, you can see the watercolor there. That's exactly why we don't keep the water. Gross. But yeah, while I'm doing this, I'll explain to you the process of cooking them. So they will keep for about a year in the freezer. However, when you take them out, remember that you need to fully cook them. Just like if you were cooking them fresh right now, right? If I wanted to cook them fresh, I would just keep boiling them for another, another 12 minutes or so. But whenever you take them out of the freezer, right, I'm going to put these in probably Tupperware or Ziploc bags, freezer bags preferably. But when you take them out, of course you need to fully cook them. So that means 15 minutes in a rolling boil, or 10 to 12 minutes if you're going to steam them. So I think I've got pretty much all of them. I'm going to let this cool down for maybe a minute or two, and then we're going to take them out. We're going to drain them, and we're going to start putting them away in the freezer to have probably in the summertime with a steak or something on the barbecue would be nice. So a couple more in there, but that's basically it. The hardest part of this process is really the timing of when the fiddleheads are ready to harvest. That's the hardest part of all this. Collecting them, preparing them, blanching them, cooking them, very easy. And again, I'm not going to share any recipes with you because it's a fairly easy vegetable to cook, and there's plenty of delicious recipes out there for you to look up. I think I got them all. Yep. So we're good. We'll let this sit for another, I don't know, minute and a half max. So there you have it. Fiddleheads collected, prepared, cleaned, blanched, cooked. Well, we discussed that part anyway. We've got ours here, a nice bag that we can throw in the freezer for us, that to take out couple times throughout the year and enjoy. And I've got a small bag there for a friend of mine that I promised I would make a small batch for him as well. And by freezing them like this, immediately it preserves the freshness. It's the closest you can get to eating them fresh right out of the ground during the season. So next best thing, we'll take it. Who wouldn't like to enjoy some nice fiddleheads in the middle of summer with a barbecue? Oh yeah. So that's it for today, my friends. Don't mind the hair, it is early in the morning. Nothing like starting off your day preparing and cooking fiddleheads. But there you have it. Fiddleheads done. Hope you enjoyed. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. If you like these videos and you want to see more, we appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on the next Homesteading for Beginners. This is Matt Leger signing out. Bye-bye.